My wife said you are too boring for me after I caught her with another man in our bed, so I called her father to come witness what his perfect daughter was really doing. Look, I have always been the guy who solves problems with action, not words. Ask anyone from my unit back in Afghanistan or my coworkers at the security company. They will tell you I do not do drama well. Got written up more times than I can count for losing my temper over stupid stuff. So what happened last Tuesday night still feels like I was watching someone else's life. Been working night security at this office complex downtown for about 3 years since I got out. It is decent money, quiet most nights, gives me time to think without people constantly asking if I am okay. Carol, my wife of 5 years, teaches 3rd grade at Lincoln Elementary, and usually goes to bed around 9:30 because she has got to be at school by 7 a.m. sharp. We have been having problems lately. Nothing dramatic at first, just that slow drift where you realize you are roommates who barely talk rather than actual partners. Started about 8 months ago when I came back from a 2-week training course in Dallas. She seemed different, distant, always on her phone, working late, going out with teacher friends I had never heard her mention before. The fight started small, me leaving my boots by the door, her not telling me she would be home late. Then they got bigger. I would come home from work and she'd already be asleep, or pretending to be. We would go days without really talking beyond how was your day and did you remember to pay the bills. She started saying things that cut deep, that I was emotionally unavailable and too rigid after my deployment, that I treated our marriage like a military operation instead of a relationship, that I was boring, predictable, never spontaneous or romantic anymore. Maybe she was right about some of it. I do operate better with structure and clear expectations, but I thought that was stability, not boring. The complaints got more frequent. She'd roll her eyes when I would stick to my evening routine, checking locks, setting out clothes for tomorrow, cleaning my gear, said I was obsessed with control and couldn't just live in the moment. Started staying late at school more often, said she was working on lesson plans or helping with after-school programs. I didn't question it because honestly I was working overtime whenever I could get it. Bills don't pay themselves and the VA disability check only covers so much. Plus, I figured if she needed space to figure things out, I could give her that. Sex became this awkward, scheduled thing that happened maybe twice a month. She'd lay there like she was doing me a favor, checking her phone afterward while I tried to figure out what I was doing wrong. When I would try to talk about it, she would say we just weren't compatible anymore and that people grow apart sometimes. Anyway, my supervisor Kevin called around 11 p.m. last Tuesday asking if I could cover the day shift because Marcus called in sick with his kid's flu. Kevin's a good guy, retired Navy, and he knows I can use the extra hours. Meant I could clock out early and actually get home before midnight for once. I figured maybe I would surprise Carol, see if we could actually talk without it turning into another argument about me being emotionally unavailable. Maybe even try to be more spontaneous, like she kept saying she wanted. I parked in the driveway instead of the garage to avoid waking her up with the automatic door opener. House was still lit up though, which was weird. Carol's obsessive about electricity bills, constantly walking around, turning off lights, and unplugging things that aren't in use. That is when I heard it, laughter coming from upstairs. Not Carol's polite teacher laugh that she uses with parents and administrators, but the kind she used to make when we first started dating. The laugh I hadn't heard in probably 2 years, real, genuine happiness. My stomach dropped because I recognized the other voice, Ethan Morrison. This skinny-it guy from her school who has been helping her with technology integration for the past few months. Always dressed in expensive clothes. Drives a nice car. Talks about his creative projects and weekend trips to art galleries. Everything I am not. I would met him exactly twice. Once at the school's fall carnival where he spent the whole time showing Carol something on his phone while I worked the ring toss booth. And once at the grocery store where they were picking out wine together for some faculty meeting. Both times he barely acknowledged I existed. Just gave me this weak handshake and looked past me. Carol always defended their friendship when I would mention how much time they spent together. Said he was just a colleague and really creative and interesting to talk to and so much more worldly than most people around here. The way she said it made it clear I was included in most people. I stood at the bottom of our stairs listening to my wife laugh with another man in our bedroom, and something clicked. Not anger, that would come later. Just this cold clarity that I needed to see what was really happening before I decided how to handle it. I climbed those stairs using techniques they taught us for urban warfare. Weight on the balls of your feet, back against the wall, controlling your breathing. Our third step from the top squeaks: if you step on the right side. So I hugged the left rail. The bedroom door was cracked open maybe 6 inches. I could see movement inside, hear Carol's voice saying things like "you understand me" in ways he never could. And this feels so right compared to... I couldn't make out the rest, but I got the idea. I pushed the door open slow and steady. There they were, Carol and Ethan on our bed, her in her robe, him in his underwear, wine glasses on the nightstand, candles lit around the room. They were so wrapped up in whatever intimate conversation they were having that they didn't even notice me for a solid 10 seconds. When Carol finally saw me, her face went through about 5 emotions in 2 seconds. Surprise, fear, guilt, then this weird defiance like she had been caught but wasn't sorry. "Bernice, I can explain," she started, but I held up my hand. "Don't," I said. My voice came out steady, controlled. "Just don't." Ethan was scrambling for his clothes, mumbling something about this being a misunderstanding. Carol just sat there looking at me like I was the one who had done something wrong by coming home to my own house. That is when she said it, the thing that changed everything. "You know what, Bernice? I am not even sorry you found out. You are too boring for me. You always have been. Ethan makes me feel alive in ways you never could. He is exciting, creative, spontaneous, everything you are not." The silence that followed was deafening. I just stood there processing what my wife had just said to me. Not an apology, not shame. Just confirmation that I wasn't enough for her, delivered like a weapon designed to cut as deep as possible. Then I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I knew by heart. "Mr. Whitaker, it is Bernice. You need to come over to the house right now. Your daughter has something she wants to tell you about her marriage." Carol's face went from defiant to terrified in about 2 seconds. Her father, Richard Whitaker, is 67 years old, been married to the same woman for 42 years, goes to church every Sunday, believes marriage vows are sacred promises to God. He had never liked me much because I am rough around the edges, but he respected that I treated his daughter with honor. "What are you doing?" Carol whispered, suddenly not so confident. I looked at her, then at Ethan, who was frantically trying to get dressed. "I am being spontaneous," I said. "Isn't that what you wanted?" But here is the thing that has been eating at me since Tuesday night. I am starting to wonder if calling her dad was the right move, or if I just opened a can of worms that is going to destroy more than just my marriage. Update 1: Holy hell, the response to my post blew up way more than I expected. Got hundreds of messages, most supportive, some calling me an asshole for involving her family. But after what happened when Mr. Whitaker showed up, I am starting to think you guys who said play stupid games, win stupid prizes were right. So here is what went down after that phone call. Because apparently this story has more twists than I thought it would. Those 10 minutes waiting for him to arrive were brutal. Carol kept cycling through the cheater's playbook, first trying to minimize what I had seen. "We were just talking." Then blame shifting. "If you paid attention to me, this wouldn't have happened." Then desperate bargaining. "I will cut all contact with Ethan. We can go to counseling." Ethan kept asking if he should leave. I told him absolutely not. Told him he needed to stay and face what he had helped create like a man instead of sneaking out the back door like a coward. "This is insane," he said at one point. "Cannot we handle this like adults?" "Adults don't betray people who trust them," I replied. "Adults have difficult conversations before they destroy marriages." When I heard Mr. Whitaker's Buick pull up, my heart started pounding. Not from fear, but from knowing that what happened next would change everything forever. Carol heard the car door slam and started panicking. "Bernice, please. My father has a weak heart. The shock could literally kill him. Should have thought about that before you decided to destroy your marriage for someone more exciting," I told her. I went downstairs to let him in. He looked concerned when he saw my face, probably thinking there was some kind of emergency. "What is going on, son?" he asked, in that calm voice parents use when they know something's wrong but aren't sure how wrong. "Upstairs. Sir. Second door on the right. Your daughter has something she needs to explain to you." The bedroom went dead silent when he walked in. Carol had thrown on a robe, but her hair was still messed up. Lipstick smeared, candles still burning around the room. Ethan looked like he was going to be sick. just standing there in his wrinkled clothes holding his shoes. Mr. Whitaker took in the scene. The rumpled bed, the wine glasses, the intimate lighting, his daughter's guilty face. You could see his whole understanding of who his daughter was shift in real time. "Daddy, I can explain." Carol started, but he held up his hand just like I had. "Don't," he said, but he was looking at me instead of her. "Just don't." That is when Ethan found his voice and started babbling about how sorry he was, how it just happened, how they never meant for anyone to get hurt. All the standard excuses. Mr. Whitaker let him finish, then looked him up and down like he was examining something distasteful. "What is your name, son?" "Ethan Morrison, sir. I work with Carol at Lincoln Elementary." "Are you married, Ethan Morrison?" Ethan nodded, swallowing hard. "Children?" "2. A boy and a girl." Mr. Whitaker processed this slowly. "And you thought whatever this is was worth risking all that?" No answer. Then he turned to Carol and I watched 40 years of love and respect crumble on his face. "Carol Marie Whitaker Davis, get dressed and meet me downstairs. We are going to have a conversation." That is when I spoke up. "She is Carol Marie Davis now, sir. Has been for 5 years." He looked at me with something that might have been understanding. "Not after tonight, she is not." What happened next in the kitchen between father and daughter, I could hear through the door. Not yelling, not screaming, just the sound of a man's heart breaking as he realized his daughter wasn't who he thought she was. But that is not even the craziest part. Because when they finished talking and Ethan slunk out of my house like the coward he is, Mr. Whitaker came to find me in the garage where I was cleaning my tools, old habit when everything goes to hell. "Son," he said, "I owe you an apology." "For what, sir?" "For thinking you weren't good enough for my daughter. Turns out she wasn't good enough for you." Then he said something that has been rattling around in my head for 3 days. "What you did tonight took more strength than throwing punches would have. You made her face what she would become in front of the person whose opinion mattered most to her." Carol left around 2 a.m. with 2 suitcases. Haven't seen her since, but she has been texting non-stop. The messages started apologetic, then got angry when I didn't respond. The latest ones are accusing me of ruining her relationship with her family and being cruel for revenge. But here is what is really messing with my head. Mr. Whitaker called me yesterday with news that is about to make this whole situation 10 times more complicated. Update 2, guys. I thought calling Carol's dad was the nuclear option. Turns out that was just the beginning. What Mr. Whitaker told me on that phone call has turned this whole thing into something I never saw coming. So remember how I mentioned Ethan has a wife and 2 kids? Well, turns out Mr. Whitaker went straight from my house to theirs Tuesday night. Didn't go home, didn't sleep, just drove across town at 1 a.m. to ring Lisa Morrison's doorbell and tell her exactly what her husband had been doing. If someone had told me my daughter was betraying her marriage, he explained when he called, I would want to know immediately. That woman deserved the same courtesy. Lisa Morrison answered the door in her pajamas, probably expecting bad news about a relative. Instead, she got Mr. Whitaker introducing himself as the father of the woman your husband is having an affair with and asking if they could talk. According to Mr. Whitaker, Lisa didn't seem shocked, just tired, like she had been waiting for confirmation of something she already suspected. Turns out Ethan had been working late 3 nights a week for months. Missing family dinners, kids' soccer games, date nights. Lisa had tried to plan, always had excuses about server maintenance or emergency at calls that couldn't wait until morning. Lisa confronted him Wednesday morning with Mr. Whitaker's information. Ethan tried to lie at first, said it was just a friendship that got misunderstood. But when she pressed him for details, he broke down and confessed everything. 4 months of planned meetings, hotel visits during professional development conferences, weekend trips while telling their families they were at different events, even using school resources to coordinate their affair, emails, phone calls, even the district's credit card for some of their hotels. Lisa filed for divorce Wednesday afternoon, posted about it on Facebook Thursday morning. One of those vague sometimes people show you who they really are posts that everyone knows means relationship drama. But here is where it gets really wild. Lisa works part-time at First National Bank. Our neighbor's Martha does bookkeeping there for her late husband's contracting business. Small town connections, you know. Martha had already noticed Ethan's car in our driveway multiple times when I was at work. Started putting pieces together, especially after seeing Mr. Whitaker's late-night visit. By Thursday, She had connected Lisa Morrison at the bank to Ethan Morrison the cheater. By Friday morning, half the town knew. Coffee shop, hardware store, grocery store. Everyone was talking about the drama at the Davis house and how that it guy from the school got caught. Then someone, and I swear, I don't know who, sent our doorbell camera footage to the school district administration. Time-stamped video showing Ethan's car in our driveway during school hours when he should have been working. Evidence of him using district time for personal business. Carol got put on administrative leave pending investigation. Ethan got fired Friday afternoon. But wait, it gets worse. Sunday morning, I am having coffee on my front porch when a car I don't recognize pulls up. Out steps this woman in her 50s. Looks like she hasn't slept in days. "Are you Bernice Davis?" she asks. Turns out it is Ethan's mother, Patricia Morrison. She had driven 3 hours from the next state over after Lisa called her Saturday night to explain why her son's marriage was ending. "I raised him better than this," she said, crying right there on my porch. "I don't understand how he could do this to his family, to you, to those children." Then she told me something that made my blood run cold. This isn't the first time, apparently. Ethan had an affair 6 years ago with a co-worker at his previous job. Patricia and Lisa's parents had helped them go to counseling, convinced Lisa to give him another chance for the children's sake. Everyone thought he had learned his lesson. "Lisa told me last night she wishes she had left him then," Patricia said. Said she wasted 6 years trying to fix a man who didn't want to be fixed. That is when it hit me. Carol wasn't Ethan's first affair partner. She was just his latest. And if I hadn't caught them, she probably wouldn't have been his last. I gave Patricia some coffee and let her collect herself before she drove home. Sweet woman, ashamed of her son's behavior, worried about her grandkids, who now have to deal with their father being known as the town cheater. But here is the thing that is really messing with me now. Carol's been texting me non-stop since the news broke, not apologizing anymore. Now she is angry. "You destroyed my career for revenge," she wrote yesterday. "I will never be able to teach again because of your stunt with my father. You ruined everything for both of us because you couldn't handle that. I found someone better. Ethan was going to leave Lisa for me until you made this public. Now he will not even take my calls." Reading those texts, I realized something that has been bothering me all week. She is not sorry about the affair. She is sorry she got caught. And now that the consequences are hitting, she blames me for overreacting instead of taking responsibility for the choices she made. But there is one more twist to this story that I found out yesterday, and it is going to change everything about how I handle what comes next. Final update. Alright guys, time to close this chapter because people keep asking for updates and honestly, I need to move on with my life. But the way this whole thing wrapped up is probably not what anyone expected, including me. So remember that one more twist I mentioned. Here is what I found out that changed everything. 2 weeks after my last update, I got a call from someone unexpected, the principal at Lincoln Elementary, Mrs. Henderson. She asked if I could come in to discuss some irregularities they had discovered during their investigation into Carol and Ethan's conduct. Turns out their affair was way more elaborate than I thought. The school's IT department had found months of deleted emails between them, including detailed plans for their meetings, discussions about when I would be at work, even conversations about their future together once they both left their spouses. But here is the kicker. They had been using the school's credit card for their hotel meetings. Ethan had authorized fake technology training expenses, and Carol had submitted fabricated receipts for educational conference attendance. We are talking about theft of school district funds, not just adultery. The district was pursuing criminal charges. Mrs. Henderson showed me evidence that made me sick. Email threads where they laughed about how clueless their spouses were. Carol calling me predictably boring and saying she couldn't wait to be free of the military robot routine. Ethan joking about how I probably couldn't even tell if she was faking it. Reading my wife mock our entire marriage to her affair partner was somehow worse than catching them together. But then Mrs. Henderson told me something that changed my whole perspective on this situation. "Mr. Davis, I want you to know that several teachers have come forward since this investigation started. Your wife wasn't just involved with Mr. Morrison." Turns out Carol had been having close friendships with multiple male colleagues over the years. The PE teacher, a substitute who worked there regularly, even a parent volunteer who helped with computer classes. Nothing they could prove was physical, but inappropriate communications, private meetings, behavior that made other staff uncomfortable. We should have addressed this pattern earlier, Mrs. Henderson admitted, but she was careful. And these men never reported feeling uncomfortable because, well, she is attractive, and they probably enjoyed the attention. I sat in that office realizing I had been married to someone I never really knew. All those late nights grading papers, weekend teacher workshops, times she would come home smelling like men's cologne that she said was from hugging colleagues goodbye. How long had I been the fool everyone pitied? But no one wanted to tell the truth. The criminal charges took 8 weeks to process. Carol ended up pleading guilty to theft of public funds and got 2 years probation plus restitution. Her teaching license was permanently revoked. Ethan got similar charges but chose to fight it in court, ended up with 6 months in county jail. By then, their affair had completely imploded. Ethan blamed Carol for getting him caught. Carol blamed him for not covering their tracks better. The great love story that was worth destroying 2 marriages lasted about 3 weeks after the consequences hit. Carol moved back in with her parents, who were not exactly welcoming after the criminal charges made local news, started working at a discount retail store while trying to figure out what to do with her life now that teaching was off the table. She sent me a letter through her lawyer last month, the kind of formal apology that is probably required for her probation. Long explanation about feeling trapped in our marriage, needing excitement I couldn't provide. Making poor choices when she was unhappy. Maybe some of that was true. Maybe I was too rigid, too focused on stability instead of romance. Maybe I could have been more spontaneous if I had known that is what she needed. But having affairs with multiple men while stealing money to fund them, that wasn't about our marriage problems. That was about who she chose to be when she thought no one was watching. I wrote back just to confirm I received her letter. Told her I hoped she found whatever she was looking for. Didn't say I forgave her, because I am not sure I do. Just that I understood we probably both made mistakes. But only one of us broke our vows repeatedly. The weird thing is, I am not angry anymore. Haven't been for weeks. Not hurt. Not disappointed. Just done. Like that whole chapter of my life was someone else's story. Started dating someone new about 2 months ago. Jennifer works as a paramedic and understands odd schedules and the kind of trust issues that come with betrayal. She knows the whole story and says she is impressed I handled it with more class than most men would have. We are taking things slow, which works for both of us. She laughs at my terrible jokes. Doesn't mind that I am still learning how to be in a relationship with someone who actually wants to be there. Mr. Whitaker and I still have coffee every few weeks. He told me last time that he is proud of how I handled everything. That I showed his daughter exactly what honor looks like, which made her choices that much more inexcusable. You didn't just call her father for revenge, he said. You made sure she had to face the truth about herself in front of someone whose opinion mattered. That took wisdom. Maybe. All I know is that some battles are won with fists, others with patience and letting people show who they really are. Took me 32 years to learn the difference. The house sold last month to a young family who loves the neighborhood. Used the money to buy a smaller place near the lake where I can fish and work on projects without dealing with memories I don't want. Work promoted me to shift supervisor with better pay and benefits. Been thinking about going back to school part-time. Maybe getting a degree in business management. Figure it is never too late to build something better. So that is where things stand. Single, stable, working on a future instead of mourning a past that was built on lies anyway. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. You just have to be patient enough to let it happen. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Turns out sharing the story with people who weren't there helped more than I expected. Sometimes you need strangers to tell you that your reaction was normal and your feelings were valid. Now I am ready to close this book and start writing the next one.